Now, if we get enough black folks to move to certain areas of the South, in the predominantly black counties, we could basically take over.
Listen, watch. Because once it starts, it's over. You may not want to fight.
If a number one...
But you better get ready. Teach your baby how to throw the bottle if they can't bite. We're going to die anyway. Let's die for something.
Question to the panel, and the first question is, the messenger said we need 8 to 10 states to start. According to the person asking the question, they believe this implies more states will be added. Would you please speak to that statement? Anyone, feel free.
Thank you for the question. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the Muslim program, which you will find on the back of every issue of the Final Call newspaper, and you found on the back of every issue of Muhammad Speaks, once he set it up in 1965, comes as a result of questions put to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by both black and white people. And the question is, what do the Muslims want? Now, I am so grateful to my brother for his presentation, because when you look at the Muslim program at point number 4, he does not limit the request for a separate state or territory to registered Muslims in the Nation of Islam.
That's right.
He defines that population. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. Having placed the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in his seat to complete the process of this mission, in the fullness of time, as we stand poised for our exodus, Minister Farrakhan has articulated first to DJ Trump, the President of the United States, and then to the people of the United States, on the 16th of November 2017 at the Watergate Hotel, that we would take 8 states. We'll take 8 states. Now, we're going to play for you, before this meeting ends, what he stated on July 21st, 2019. See, as we move forward, he releases more specific information and identification of what we are talking about. And it's an excellent question. And yes, we will start moving, on one sense slowly, but in another way quickly, toward this establishment. You heard him, if you listen to his message in Cobra in Detroit last month. He mentioned the state of Mississippi. You have heard him speak of Alabama.
That's right.
You have heard him, and everyone hasn't heard him everywhere he speaks. And so it becomes a task now with the millions of words that have been spoken by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and by his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the millions of words that things have been said in small and large venues. But we have been made to know that the separate state or territory must include fertile and minerally rich land. We also have been told that we need an outlet to the sea.
That's right.
And so these coastal states, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. Georgia, the birthplace of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and a state soaked with the blood of black people.
That's right. That's right.
And so we will move over a period of time as he gives us specific direction and guidance. Now, very quickly, establish is a term, and he said, to be allowed. Now, when you say allow me, that is a term that is heavily loaded. Because I'm asking you to allow me, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm subordinate to you, or I need your permission.
Come on.
What it is saying to you that if we're going to accomplish this peacefully, I need you to allow me.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm going to do it.
That's right.
Now, how can I prove that's what he meant? In no limit of time.
Okay.
Let's parse this number 4, the supreme wisdom, and then of this number 4, and then I'll be quiet. Later, he says in the same point number 4, speaking of the slave masters and of white people, since we cannot, not do not, cannot,
Right. That's right.
get along with them in peace and equality. After giving them 400 years of our sweat and blood and receiving in return some of the worst treatment human beings have ever experienced, we believe our contributions to this land and the suffering forced upon us by white America justifies our demand.
Right. That's right. Come on.
Demand for complete separation in a state or territory of our own.
So moving to the next question, which is one of the most oft-repeated questions that we find in the actual meeting. So, and I'm combining a few questions because they all are very similar in their nature. So, someone wrote, what is the best way to discuss with family friends the project separation and black people separating from the American government? And part B is, when does separation first start? How does that process start?
Again, giving all praise to Allah. The process of separation first begins mentally. Prophet Noble Raleigh gives us a teaching. He says, what is the lower self sometimes called? Devil.
Yes, sir.
Says, what does the lower self breed? The lower self breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms. It says, what people represent the lower self? It says, those that were cast out of the holy city and those that accept their teachings. Okay? So what happens is, the problem with, getting our people to, wrap their minds around separating from their, their oppressor is the fact that they feel tethered to him and they feel like they can't separate. They think they are their oppressor, right? In layman's terms, they've coined this term, Negropean. It's harsh, right? Yeah, because, it looks like one of your people. That's right. Until you begin to speak English.
That's right.
Especially on something, that's of a political nature.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Their views are like, okay, you aren't one of us. Okay? Right. The scriptures speak of a separating of the wheat and the chaff. They use a term called, the threshing floor, which was a place where they used to separate the two.
Yes,
right? Sir. This gathering here, most gatherings, with trusted organizations that dedicate themselves to nation building, they're somewhat threshing floors, right? We come here and we get the, we go over the concepts of what it is, to be on your own. I like to ask, people, are you ready to rule again? Because we've been so used to outsourcing our intelligence to others that we have forgotten what it takes to govern ourselves. That being the case, a lot of work has to be done psychologically, okay? Because one of the worst things that we could ever do is to separate and bring those that have the mentality of our oppressors into something like that. Because we would implode, we'd be at civil war constantly.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
so
sir.
in this interim, while we have time where we find ourselves still, tethered to the American government and so on and so forth, the United States of America Constitution, whatever, let us study what it takes to run a nation. I give honors again to the Nation of Islam, More Science Temple of America. The brother mentioned earlier, Brother Yahweh Ben Yahweh with the Nation of Yahweh. These are groups that base themselves on a nation building concept, right? And every time they gather, they put their monies together and they practice what it was to be on their own. See, if you're not practiced in that, when the time comes for you to be on your own, you won't be able to function. Right? Another brief thing, without belaboring the point, that I like to throw out there. Study the creation of the state of Israel. If you study how that was done and how they went about doing that, you will learn a lot. See, again, back to what I was speaking about earlier, sometimes you have to put your emotions to the side, right? If you look, their first sightings for a land was not Palestine. It was Uganda. Our brothers in Uganda wasn't going for it. And they set their sights on Kenya. And our brothers in Kenya wasn't going for it. Right? Then they set their sights on Palestine. And based on a historical, biblical, and Quranic, thing of, okay, well, you know what, let's let them stay. And they invited them in, that was it. They got the backing of Britain and America, and they've been there ever since. And pushing the Palestinians out day by day. Study one of their architects of that European by the name of Theodor Herzl. He wrote a book called Der Judenstaat, which means the Jewish state. And if you read that, that's their playbook on how they accomplished what they accomplished. Okay? If you read, how he framed it, and you read, the works of Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it reads the same. They were just more vicious in their approach. And they had the backings of some more vicious cats that backed them up in that madness. Okay? So again, I would assert that, clearing the mind state up first, because where the mind goes, the body has to follow. The body should always be the servant of the mind, not the other way around. And with that, I go for
it. I'll just like to say very quickly, we're already separated on equal. That's right. The ghettos of America. We're already separated.
Come on, right?
What we have to do is follow the teaching of Honorable Farrakhan now and just realize that we're separated. I'm saying to all of us, right now, we must study what the Honorable Farrakhan is teaching us now. You see the rise of the police killing us?
Come on now. Say that.
You see what happened, I don't know if you know what happened a few days ago, out in Marietta. The senator, a black senator, sister, 9 months pregnant, was in the line getting the groceries. And she got in that line where it's supposed to be 20 or less. And she had 20, I think it was 24 items. See? Because she's pregnant, she didn't want to stand in that line long. And this Caucasian man called her a black bitch. Straight up. And there was no men around that would stand up for her. Because they don't want us to have nothing. And that's real. And they're doing this all over America. In their mind, we're already separate, but unequal.
That's right. Come on.
We have to wake up quick,
Yes, sir.
and realize that in God, Allah, is moving us in that direction. Did you see what happened last night in Vegas?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is that? The grasshopper just came all out of the sky. You love to Google it. And you can hear the people scared, looking at the window, running from the grasshopper. But the Uncle Louis Farrakhan just told us a few days ago.
Yes, sir.
What? He's been speaking. What was going to start happening?
That's right.
We better wake up, people. The man of God is speaking in our midst. That's all I have to say.
Additionally, quickly, and I'm in 1,000% agreement with my colleagues, my brothers, those of our people that are hesitant and have to hear that white people said it's okay. There are a lot. There have to hear that. Read the opening to the Declaration of Independence to them. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. And this has been the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, having met with God and received the wisdom of the self-created one from him, and received from him the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to raise us up from a condition of death to a condition of life, that we would know it is time to seek to return to our own. But this is not an aberration. This country started as the result of the disconnect of ties with the British monarchy. It was a separation. And I'll talk more on it tomorrow, but there is no creation without separation. Separation is an integral part of the creative process. And so, as Brother Sharif just pointed out to us, this treatment of us that persists, that continues, we are segregated into what we call ghettos, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan corrected us and said we are colonized. We live in colonies and clusters of colonies in America. So we are already segregated. 96% of people in this country live with people of their own kind. But we are the only ones that live in a subordinate condition. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad called us a subject people. And so in speaking to our own kind, remember that we are being shown every day that we have no other choice than to go for self. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us, here is what we did wrong. Separation is not new to our people because Juneteenth, which is when black people in Texas, when the Union troops finally landed on the shores of Galveston, and they found out, I think it was June 19, 1865, that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed 2 years earlier. History records that the majority of slaves immediately left the plantations, though they had nowhere to. The desire of our parents to distance themselves from these people was so profound that they left immediately. And do you know that what the first thing that the so-called freedmen did in the days in the wake of the emancipation was? We went looking for our families. Our forefathers wanted nothing to do with white folks. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us that integration was not only hypocritical on their part, but that it was a trap.
That's right.
And it was integration that destroyed black business in Atlanta, in New York, in Detroit, in Dayton, Ohio, in Richmond, Virginia, in Tampa, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee, all of the cities where we live. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
That's right.
The very first time after the invention of the aeroplane, the first time the white man used them as weapons to drop bombs was not overseas. It was in the continental United States on black people. So if all of that and the coming of God doesn't work for us, then you stay here. We're here to talk to those. We will be signing a petition today.
That's right.
I say lastly, and we have spoken to several thousand black people. We've had black people stand up in these town hall meetings and say, my bags are packed. Just tell me where to go. Now, we will sign a petition. But I say this lastly, we're not going to be isolated. You know, we talk about how bad white people treat us, but when someone says separation, we start to hyperventilate. We're not going to be isolated. We want these states to dominate. We said of our own. Every Chinese person in America does not live in a Chinatown.
That's right.
But they have one. Listen to what I'm saying. Every Italian person doesn't live in a little Italy, or every German person in a German town, but they have it. Every Jew does not live in Israel, but find me a Jew that doesn't support Israel.
That's right.
We're going to ask you on that petition, when you are given the words to it, we're not saying everybody should come move to Mississippi with us or move to Georgia or Alabama, but we're telling you to support it. And if you agree that it should exist and that you will support it, don't you know if you want to live in Nevada, you will, or in Idaho, you will be better off if those white people know you got backup in the black-run governed states of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and so on. So tell your family. I would
say drop the mic, but we have more. Praise be to Allah. Yes, I'm here for you getting excited. I'm grateful for that. I've been reading a lot of the questions, and as Black people, we have a lot of knowledge. Prior to us being reintroduced to ourselves, many of us coming into the nation, some of us being birthed, but just being Black babies, growing up in the home with Black mamas, you have a lot of information. Because you have to be taught before you leave the house first not to embarrass her.
That's right. That's right.
So, when we attain a lot of knowledge, sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things, right? And so I've been reading some of the questions, and we're a little bit overcomplicating things. So I just pulled up just one example, and then I'm going to move to the next question for the panel. The state of Utah has, according to their July 2016 census, they have 3 million people. Of the 3 million people that live in the state of Utah, 2 million of them are Mormons. So who do we know run the state of Utah?
That's right.
It is simply that simple.
That's right.
So with this next question, I'm going to pose to the panel on the tails of that bit of information. Is there an example in history of what we are trying to accomplish with separation? Is there an example that we can think of in history? We just got it. Praise be to Allah. United States. There you go. The next question is, and this is a really important question, I believe, is religion necessary to build a thriving nation separate from our enemies in the U.S. and throughout the planet Earth? And the part B is, there are Black citizens fighting for equality and justice also who have no religious affiliation. Do they not deserve asylum?
Jump in real quick. Firstly, what is religion? Again, we have a tendency to look at the world through somebody else's lens. Relative to, from a Quranic perspective, Islam is your nature.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Islam is not ritual. Islam is not 5 salats a day.
Come on.
Islam is not 30 days of Ramadan.
Come on.
Islam is not Hajj once in your lifetime. Right? It is your very nature. Before the rituals came, you were and you had Islam.
Come on now. Yes, sir.
That's first. We have a teaching that says religion is law and law is government, right? In the ancient world, before the European came to dominance, our governments were divine government. They were divine and national, right? If I could just read something real quick from Noble Drew Ali out of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. He says, chapter 48, verse 6, he says, instruction 6, we as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Neither serve the gods of their religion.
Good teaching.
Because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation.
Yes, sir.
So we have always united the two, right? Show all the scholars that are in the room, show a period of time where we separated them, right? Fragmented thought is a European trait. That's not ours.
Come
right?
on, now.
We are
Come on.
holistic thinkers. All parts are connected to the whole. Okay? Again, back to the psychology of things. Okay? And with that, I'll yield the floor to Sister Dr. Ava Muhammad so she can rock the floor. There you go, sister.
You said it beautifully. You already said it. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a way of life. And again, we want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves. That's the population we're talking about. Again, the children of Israel who were brought out from under Pharaoh, which that's prophetic, did not have the same quote, religion. Our brother just laid that out beautifully. We have to work to break from allowing the former slave master to frame issues. This is why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is so dangerous to their world, because he reframes issues to what they properly are.
Right, right.
He wrote in his monumental study, Self-Improvement, the Basis for Community Development, a study mandatory for the registered Muslims of the nation and a gift to the black community of whomever wishes to partake of it. He wrote that we cannot interpret any set of facts beyond our ability to perceive, our perception, and our interpretation of facts. That's right. White people have taken, he said, the fact of their dominance over us to mean that we are inferior. That's right. They have taken, they perceive and interpret the fact that they rule over us to mean that they are God over us. The reason that that fact exists is that we are asleep. You're not ruling over us because you are superior to us.
Go ahead.
You are ruling over us because we have been asleep.
That's right. Right.
So you have misinterpreted the fact and taken it to an extreme position where you believe that you're God. And you not only are the center of your own existence, you want to be the center of everyone's existence. And there is no link to which you will not go to force everyone into that position. But now we have awakened from that sleep. And so now you can no longer rule over the darker peoples of the earth. You have to let our people know who are so afraid and take white people as God. God doesn't hate the real God, Allah, God. He doesn't hate white people because they're white.
Right.
He hates them because they're wicked. And if you are black and wicked, you have no place in our states or territory. This is a coming together of the righteous.
Thank you. Our next question is another twofold question. And the question is, in order to separate, will we have to go to war and shed physical blood? Is that what is meant in the restrictive laws when it states, kill no one whom Allah has not ordered to be killed? The second part of the question is, because of our fears of the white man's power, tell us, the children of Israel of this day, what does the mother plane mean to our exodus?
I don't want to do all the talking with you. Just real quick, yes, the mother plane was built in 1929, or I should say it's completed in 1929. And if those who are not familiar with that, come out and join us in the studies here at MOSQUE number 15 to our meetings. You'll hear about that before we close today. It was built for the express purpose of the destruction of America.
That's right.
Yes, we will go to war. Yes, there will be physical confrontation, but as already been said by Student Minister Sharif, they're already killing us.
Come on.
We have been in a war since they kidnapped us on the coast of West Africa. We just didn't realize we were in a war. It's been a one-sided war. There was not a war in Africa, it was an invasion.
That's right.
there will be a war, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan made it very clear to us, and we know from our teachings, it will be very quick. Very quick, in the twinkling of an eye, because Allah, God himself said, we have suffered enough. So we've been in a protracted state of war. The 450 years here has been the final phase of our redemption.
Right.
From a massive act of rebellion 66 trillion years ago,
Right.
where we slowly started falling from that point to now. But we are up from that, and all we need to do is accept our own and be ourselves. How can we be afraid with one man? One man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has singularly stood America on its head and has gone around the entire globe, challenging Satan in his face. And look at him. I'm going to prove to you in no limit of time, in this country, not long ago, when two slaves could not talk to each other without permission and the presence of a white man. When it was against the law for us to read and write, white people would be executed if they were found teaching us to read and write in America. Let me prove very quickly we got back up.
Right.
October 16th, 1995. One black man issued a call for black men, the descendants of those who were prohibited from conversing with each other, from leaving the plantation without a pass. He said, meet me at the seat of their government, the greatest military power on the earth. 1.8 million black men and boys, of whom a small fraction, to my earlier question, were Muslim, met him on a Monday. There were no drugs, there was no alcohol, there was no naked women, there was no dancing and partying, there was no gang banging, there was no garbage, there was no trash. It was a holy day of atonement. And white men scattered. The government of the United States shut down. This man here was serving as the supreme captain of the fruit of Islam, of the nation of Islam. All over this country, black women and girls put their husbands, fathers, brothers, sons, grandsons on buses and in cars. My brother-in-law, who is way up in white corporate America, and I never dreamed he got on a bus and rode overnight to hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So don't you dare tell me what they are going to do. They're not going to do a damn thing. That's what they're going to do. Nothing. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and I shut up on this. They asked him, the white man asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when will this plane that you keep talking about go into action? He said, the moment you make a move on us, the plane will go in action. So make your move.
I don't know how you can go after that, but you surely are.
No idea. Very short. I just have one small humble thought. You know, we're taught that, you know, all questions come from a particular line of thought.
That's right.
To ask and respect to the questioner, but to ask, will there be bloodshed, comes from a position of fear. Most of us who were raised in this country were, you know, raised with a Christian background. Even in the Bible, it states that God never gave you a spirit of fear, right? In the Quran, it says that never be the aggressor. Never be the aggressor. But it says if they attack, this is what Allah says. But if they attack you, you kill them wherever you find them.
That's right. That's right. Go ahead.
Then it says, when they stop, you stop. Because in your execution of justice, you can't become the savage. Okay? So, you know, and again, real quick, you know, we were taught, man cannot die. Prophet Noble Jurali, Holy Quran and the More Science Simple of America. It says, man cannot die. The spirit man is one with Allah. And while Allah lives, man cannot die. Right? Because this ain't me anyway. It's a vehicle I'm using to get some work done. So if you take this, I ain't gonna do nothing but come back as my grandson. So it ain't no problem at all. So with that, I give the floor. Slow down.
I just want to say very briefly, since they was speaking about Million-Man March domestically, maybe you say, well, God, Allah was with the minister in America. But let me take you overseas for a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pharaoh Reagan said, if anybody go to Libya during that time, 10 years in prison, $10,000 fine. The Honorable Farrakhan called a press conference. Miles Morale, just kids y'all don't know. He stated, I'm a free black man. I go wherever I want to go. And got on a plane and we went overseas. And while we were in Benin, that's Africa, he got a message what America was going to do to Libya. And that Honorable Farrakhan decided that he would go to Libya and warn Muammar Gaddafi. And he sent the delegation back to America. And that's when Brother Collin was the Supreme Captain at that time.
Yes, sir.
He told the minister, he said, brother, let me go to Libya. He was willing to go to prison if that's what it took. The Honorable Farrakhan said, thank you, Brother Collin, but you're not as well known as I am. And I want you and Brother MOSQUE, his son, I want you all to go back to America and go around with the tour, hands off Farrakhan. I'm going, minister talking, I'm going to Libya to warn my brother. And he only took 2 with him. And just so happened by the grace of God, I was one. We went to Libya. And the night we got there, some of you may remember when Honorable Farrakhan said, the night that we got to Libya, all of Brother Gaddafi's top aides came to the Honorable Farrakhan's room. And Honorable Farrakhan warned them what America was going to do. And when they finished, they got up And they ran out of the room to tell Brother Gaddafi what Don Blues Farrakhan said. Actual facts. And the minister warned them that they was going to attack their planes and water and blow up infrastructure. And the minister told them, and Brother Gaddafi took his planes out of Libya, put them in Chad, and some of them. He moved. He heard what Don Blues Farrakhan said and obeyed. In the meantime, we was there waiting. And America, most of you don't know this, attacked Libya, and Libya shot down 2 of Americans' planes. But it was broadcast back in America that was 1 shot down, but it was 2. Now, Brother Gaddafi had a lot of women in his military at that time, and they wanted to come and meet Don Blues Farrakhan and ask him to pray for them because they was going to the front line. They came to the room, the minister prayed for them, and they went. When they went, then the brothers apparently heard what the sisters did. You know what I'm saying? They wanted the minister to come and pray for them. So when they came, the minister graciously he prayed for them, and then they came back later and told the minister that the 2 planes that got shot down, and now they was bracing. They knew America was getting ready to bring it, and we was there. And I'm saying I didn't have as much faith then that I had now. And I'm saying to Salim, the military was just calm. I said, Salim, we got to get the hell out of here. No, I'm just being honest. The suite that we were in had a big picture window. And Don Blues Farrakhan just walked kindly over to the window and he said, oh, out there is a plane somewhere. Just going back to your question, he said the plane is out there somewhere. And went to his bedroom and closed the door. I said, Salim, we need to get him out of here. We stayed, the minister was so calm, we stayed there for a few more days. And then after a while, that's when Saudi Arabia sent a 747 to pick up Don Blues Farrakhan. And I'm thinking now, they had a plane that was just coming by, stop, pick Don Blues Farrakhan up and keep going. It's a 747. And we got on there about maybe, it seemed like to me, 25, 21 stewardess. That was it. They sent that big plane to pick up the minister. It wasn't about 4 of us. For Don Blues Farrakhan. Check us. Saudi Arabia. You know, at that time, there was a saying out that we wasn't real Muslims. But for us not to be real Muslims, Saudi Arabia was at the holiest of cities, sent private plane to pick up Don Blues Farrakhan, which is not a real Muslim to you. And you was still. Praise be to Allah. Right. They picked him up. We went, put him up in a big suite. Then that next morning, we went for a little walk. We was for a walk, because prison cells, the bedroom. So we went for a walk, and that's when we saw at one of the paper stands, newspaper stand. He said, "Get me one of those papers." That's when we got the paper, and on the front page, now you Google it, front page of the Saudi Gazette. I think that's the paper in Saudi Arabia. Right. Front page. America was sending one of their most sophisticated airplanes carrier to Libya. And when you check the date, that's the date we were there. But there was a bright, shining object that interfered with all the electric equipment on the ship. And they had to turn it around and send it back to Miami.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
That was a plane, just in case you don't know. Then they sent another ship there, and that's when they dropped the bombs and whatever. But I wanted to show you when the minister said the plane was out there somewhere, bearing witness. That's real. The wheel is real, and it backs up the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. That's a fact. Praise be to Allah. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, that is.
Yes. Very thoroughly. So for the sake of time, because we are running
Yeah, we do.
I think that we have 3 questions that I think are very important that we should at least address. But for the sake of time, I'm going to address 2 separate questions that I think can be answered fairly quickly. One is, how much time do we have to decide to separate? Not long. And the second question is, should the FOI of the nation police our communities? And my answer is, once you've demonstrated the ability to police yourself, then I think the answer is yes, most certainly the FOI should be policing our communities. The next question I'm going to pose, of the final 3 questions that we have, deal with, 1, separation and how they will be governed. So the question is, what will be our first priority after separation, and how will the new state be governed?
I really plan to answer that tomorrow. On Sunday, the lecture's called A Decent Place to Live, because I do want to lay pressure on our minds to go ahead and move. And I know that one impediment to the idea of separation is that this is some sort of aberration. And we're not able to see how this can happen. But I would just say, as a prelude to tomorrow, if you understand the structure of the U.S. government and the structure of the, look at what it's called, the United States of America, a political union of 50 independent sovereign states, each with its own flag, each with its own constitution. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But the way in which we govern ourselves will come from, as my brother spoke about earlier, we were created in a nature that makes us submissive to the will of Allah, that makes us predisposed and inclined to live in peace. But we already know how to govern, and you're going to see a clip from the minister briefly. I'm not going to do a closing because I've talked all day. But this is basically my closing. I want to say on the issue of policing and the FOI, we'll deal with that tomorrow too, that yes, the fruit of Islam are the military protection of the black nation. All right? And yes, our communities will be policed by the fruit of Islam, but to Sister Rona's point about self-policing, I think you're talking more in the sense of beginning to behave and conduct ourselves in our homes and in our individual behavior a certain way. When a few of us do that, then you and I become entitled to have protection in that. It doesn't take a lot. We do this block by block. That's how the white man pushed back up in what we thought was our neighborhood. He did it block by block. And now you look up and Harlem is white. Okay? And so just like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's development is a reverse of the process of making the black man into a Negro, the Minister Farrakhan's life and development is the process of making a Negro into a God, we are going to reverse that process and bring about black gentrification. Black gentrification. Thank you very much. Brother
I just want to speak about the FOI, police in the community. Now, that's a reality, by the grace of God. Just past week or two, up at the AU Center, they invited me to speak to all administrators and police chiefs. When I got to run with the CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, all of them. And I wasn't expecting that, but I thought we were going to speak to the chiefs and police from around the country of all colleges. But I was prepared by the grace of God, because Louis Farrakhan had already prepared us, because at the Million Man March, by the grace of God, I was able to speak to all law enforcement agencies in America, because they had them there for the Million Man March. That's when they were prepared to kill us on that mall.
I got a charge in the interim.
The HBC, the chief of police invited us to speak, and I said, because following on Louis Farrakhan's instruction, when there was shooting, they was killing some of the students up at the college, it's all on TV.
T6, that's
right. They was robbing the students. Therefore, we went up there. Yes, sir. They didn't invite us. Come on, guys. We went up on our own. And Allah, God blessed us. The crime went all the way down. We worked for 24 hours up there. Yeah. And by the grace of God, Louis Farrakhan told us, don't go looking for money. That's right. Go do the work. Do the work. And the money will come. By us doing that, by the grace of God, that's why the chief of police invited us to come and speak. And when I spoke by the grace of God, I said to them, I said, now, do you remember the Million Man March? That's right. I said, it was not one incident. Right. At all. And I said to them, now all of you all carry weapons. I said, don't make your weapons your God. Because our Louis Farrakhan taught us, because between your finger and the trigger is a lot of God. That's right. Now the white folks in the room look. God. I said, and what happened at the Million Man March that you all, I said, you FBI, you all was there. CIA, you was there. Homeland Security, you was there. I said, but what you didn't calculate in that march was God. And all the black people, yes. See, because we got God in us. And then when I finished speaking by the grace of God, the president from Prince George's County came up to me, look, we need your contact with the Muslims in Maryland now, because we're going to open up the college campus. Yes, sir. Orangeburg, South Carolina was there. He said, we're going to open up our campus to the Muslim from this city, by the grace of God. The university is going to open up again for the Muslim that follow over Louis Farrakhan from this city, by the grace of God. That's the FOI work. That's real. Praise be to Allah. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you our petition. This is the reason why we're here. So you'll see on the tables on clipboard this petition. The purpose of this petition is that we want our people who are descendants of slaves and who desire to live a righteous life to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on their continent or elsewhere. Our former slave masters and their children are obligated to provide that land, which should be minerally rich and fertile. We believe they are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in the separate territory for 20 to 25 years. We're all familiar with this land, correct? Until we are able to meet our own needs. We receive no peace after getting the best of us for 400 years and receiving in return some of the worst treatment ever recorded by any people. Our contributions to this land and suffering at the hands of white America justifies a complete separation in a state or territory of our own. So right now, what I would like for everyone to do is to pull out your cell phones, and we're gonna have you text the word separate to 31996. Again, you're gonna text the word separate, SEPARATE, to the number 31996. And what that does is, that allows you to join the same movement electronically via your cell phone, and what you'll do is we start to receive updated text messages from the Project Separation team as it relates to the next step in this process. Yes, sir. The number is 31996. 31996, and you're going to text the word separate. Again, I'm going to briefly describe what you're going to be signing so that you are very clear and we can make sure that we expedite the process as quickly as possible. You're going to print your name, and then next to your name, you're going to sign it. Then you're going to put your address and your city, your zip code, and your phone number. Then you're going to check the box whether or not you would like to receive text messages. However, if you've already texted to the 31996, you can just go ahead and check that box here. You'll add your email address. The next column is your skill or education, and then any comments. So there's two last lines. And it just is saying, by you checking these two lines, number one, by signing this petition, I'm declaring my desire to follow the law of God, or simply offer my support of those who do. Furthermore, this is a formal declaration that I intend to separate or support those who intend to separate from white America by establishing a new land under God with freedom, justice, and equality for all, regardless of race, creed, class, or color. You will also be registering to be a voting member of the justice political machine. Okay? So that's what these last two columns are. You'll simply check both boxes, and that's what you are communicating when you check those boxes. We have a 4-minute video that's already queued up of the minister that we're going to be playing, and then after that, we'll be closing out in prayer. Thank you, everyone.
I say to President Trump, God is punishing America for what you've done to black, brown, and red people, particularly the black, that God is after, and you won't let them go. Now, if, Mr. President, you reasoned with what he asked, we need 8 to 10 states. Don't take nothing out of it. Just move out yourself. We can run cities, we can run states, we can run any corporation. We know something about everything. So all of you that are with the movement to get our people registered to vote, I say speed it up. But you gotta vote with a vision in mind. Come on. If we learn how to vote, and you say we want 8 to 10 states, and we are becoming the majority in a lot of states, particularly in the South, that has agricultural land that is fertile and minerally rich with an outlet to the sea. That's right. just with the power of the vote. Our being prolific baby makers.
Prolific.
Soon, you can run the state just with the power of the vote. You ain't killing nobody, ain't robbing nobody, just exercising what they said we could do. Many of you go to law school and you're coming out and you're brilliant. We can run the law of a state. We can run courts. We know how to be good sheriffs. We know how to be good policemen. We have over 400,000 of us in the armed forces of America. Whatever land we have, we know how to protect it. But Mr. Trump, you have to see that that's in the interest of America's future. Not to make you great again, because you've never really been great in a righteous way. You felt great because of how you took the land of the native people. You felt great because you brought millions of us over here and made us slaves. You felt great because you brought the Chinese in to lay your railroad tracks and other things. You felt great because white power was in effect. But America, you can truly become great. But righteousness has to be the cornerstone of your greatness, and justice for the black man and woman has to be a part of your plan, Mr. President.
If we get enough black folks to move to certain areas of the South and the predominantly black counties, we could basically take over.
Crystal chandelier. The complete number of questions and answers and actual facts in our lessons comes to 154. When the 10 questions and answers of student enrollment are subtracted from the 154, we have 144 remaining questions and answers. The number 144,000 appears in the Bible as the first fruit converts to God and His Christ. This is a figure representing God's elect that will be taken out of the whole body of new converts that God would work with to first square and then cube the nations of the world into a standard of righteousness. 144 cubed equals 1,728 cubic inches, which is equal to 1 cubic foot. In time measurement, that is by days, 24 hours in a day multiplied by 6 days equals 144. The seventh day in creation is called the day of rest and is sanctified as the Lord's day. The seventh day is equal to the early morning of the 7,000th millennium in which Christ will establish His kingdom on earth. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated that the whole scope of Master Farad Muhammad's teachings is astronomy. The inner meaning of the first 10 questions and answers of student enrollment is designated as the Big 10, representing the family of the sun and her 9 planets. In its deeper meaning, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad compared the family of the Big Ten, to the role of the woman who carries the life germ in her womb for 9 months to completion and birth. To study astronomy, we must have a knowledge of mathematics, the universal language to acquire universal knowledge. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has stated that a people who do not have a knowledge of mathematics cannot build and will always be subject to a people who know mathematics. I once asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad if Master W. Farad Muhammad continues to study, and he answered me in the affirmative. So what excuse do we have not to study? According to the history of Jesus and his mother, also given to us to study by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a sign of our evolving and developing community, we read that mathematics was the #1 subject that the prophet or the wise man required of Jesus to begin teaching him how to tune in. This knowledge was given to him to protect him in his mission against the plot of the enemies who sought to take his life. Mary and Joseph also had the ability to tune in. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that 1 in every 100 of our people in the East also have this ability. The prophet began teaching Jesus, and because he was quick in learning, he mastered this teaching in 3 lessons. Then he tested Jesus' ability to tune in by giving him the greeting, Assalamu alaikum, to which Jesus responded, Wa alaikum salam. When the angel Jibril revealed the first revelation of the Holy Quran to Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, he revealed it within a mathematical context in which letters, words, verses, and chapters are all mathematically coded. The Holy Quran was later arranged also by revelation in the chapter sequence that we read today. We will note that the angel Jibril also appeared to Mary in the 19th surah, which carries her name, in exactly 19 verses, 16 through 24, announcing the birth of Jesus and some words about his future work and mission, which comes all the way down to us today. Happiness, brothers and sisters, is the removal of stress. When we have the right understanding about ourselves and others and the world in which we live. If we look at paragraph 1, where the word stress is applied to our assignment, it may be neglect of duty or default in duty, which produces the stress-related ailments that we're suffering today because we do not have the right understanding of ourselves, nor our relationship to God, nor our relationship to others, and to our relationship to the rest of the world. As we stay fully committed and focused on our assignment and mission, given in the details of the 13 paragraphs and in the body of our lessons, we will learn how to live happy and productive lives. And everything we touch will literally turn into gold. We are guaranteed that the restrictive law, when enforced, is our success. I have correlated the 10th system, the brain, to the supreme wisdom lessons, beginning with 10 questions and answers of student enrollment, which introduces us to the knowledge of God and the knowledge of self. From the very first question and answer, who is the original man? This means that God himself is the brain of all operations that make all the other 9 systems of the body work effectively. The first mention of the word brain appears in lesson number 2, question and answer 28, with a reference to Yaqub's grafting of the white race. The nurse stuck a needle in the brain of the black baby at birth, putting him to sleep, which is the condition of the black man and people today and all over the planet Earth. There is a parable in the Bible given in John chapter 21 verses 1 through 14 concerning Jesus' disciples who are being taught a lesson by Jesus on how to be fishers of men. They were throwing their nets rather haphazardly into the water from the boat, trying to catch fish. Jesus instructed them from the seashore to cast their nets on the right side of the boat. When following these instructions, they caught 153 fish and brought them to shore. It is interesting to note that if we take the 153 fish and add Jesus himself, the sum is 154, which is exactly equal to the number of questions and answers in our lessons. And I'm footnoting here for us to look at paragraph 3 of instructions for further details from our Savior Allah. But just in general, it states that the use of these lessons given to us to study by Master Farad Muhammad must be used at all time with the new converts. It is the bait by which we will catch the fish. And we must prove at all times that our Savior Allah has come to deliver us, the end of this present civilization and the beginning of a new civilization which will be ruled by a people who will uphold justice, freedom, and equality, and will be made the new rulers of an entire new world civilization. This parable may be compared to the catching and processing of the new converts to Islam, who are being raised from the dead. The means and methods in raising the dead have varied throughout the years, but the foundation of our recruiting effort is found in the use, practice, and application of the language in the proper terms, with the use of the lessons of the supreme wisdom, which must be used in the resurrection of the mentally dead. These lessons are designed and patterned from the mind and thinking of God, transmitted to his chosen servants, the prophets, as a guide for others. In the ancient land of our fathers, in Egypt, there stands in the middle and on the border thereof the great pyramid of Giza, that remains to this day as the only remaining seventh wonder of the world. It was constructed on 13 acres of land, a few miles outside of Cairo. Its original casing stones, which was made out of pure white limestone, are equal to 22 acres. Every measurement was built and designed by the architect to measure in stone a history of the world of the last 6,000 years and beyond into the 7th millennium. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad first drew my attention to the study of the Great Pyramid and its mathematical measurements when he stated to some of his followers and family members at the dinner table that if we wanted to get a picture of how our ancient civilizations were built, that we should study the monuments in Egypt. The number of fish, 153, mentioned in John chapter 21, is also contained within the measurements of the Great Pyramid. As one enters on the north side of the Great Pyramid, on the 19th cornerstone, you have to move left 286.1 pyramid inches. This number of pyramid inches appears in many places in the measurements of the stones and the inner passages that leads upwards to the truncated platform where there is a missing capstone. This number of pyramid inches, 286.1, is called the displacement factor. In order to correct this movement to the left, which implies deviation or sinister in Latin, one must turn to the right, counting that same measurement of pyramid inches to get back on track. This leads the initiate or student to higher wisdom on the path to becoming a master. It is interesting to note that the second chapter of the Holy Quran, entitled Al-Baqarah, the cow, contains exactly 286 verses and speaks of the deviation of the followers of Moses. Inside the Great Pyramid, there are ascending and descending passageways which are measured according to the alignment of specific stars. This knowledge was given to us also from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He stated that the pyramid was built in alignment to the stars, and that in order to destroy the pyramid and its meaning and its sign, you would have to destroy the stars to which they are aligned. He also taught us that the building of the pyramid was done by a mechanical mean of a hydraulic water to push the stones into place, and that at this particular time that instrument has been hidden lest our open enemies discover its use and be able to prolong and extend their civilization. When we pass through the Grand Gallery that is constructed with 7 tiers inside of the pyramid, we have an uplift that raises up beyond the stooped position that we're in when we reach those ascending or descending passageways. We come exactly 286.1 pyramid inches up so that we can really start taking a breath and keep moving in the direction of the truncated pyramid. We come then to a horizontal passage that leads to the king's chamber, located on the 50th, counting from the foundation up, to the 50th cornerstone. From the 50th cornerstone to the pyramid's platform, we measure another 153 cornerstones. Pay attention to the word course, because this is going to come up later as we move into the second part of my presentation, the word course and courses. We will note the recurrence of this number 153, which referred to the number of fish that were caught by 7 disciples in the parable of Jesus and the fishermen. Now let us suppose that the missing capstone represents Christ himself. It is believed that the construction of the capstone was never done, though there are some who believe that it was originally made out of gold, and some believe that it was originally made out of crystal, that it was never really made at all. It was left there and designed by the architect to represent the Christ in the millennial age. And it was also there to represent a people who had been rejected, like the rejected stone that we read of in scriptures. So if then we say that this capstone represents Christ in his glory, and we add together the 153 cornerstones that led from the king's chamber to that truncated pyramid, we come exactly to the lesson code again, 154. When 154 is divided by 7, we get 22/7, which represents the fraction of pi. And among our ancient people of Egypt, they use fractions and not decimals. So you can read it as a decimal, 3.14 they generally give, or 3.1459, and we know it goes on into infinity and they can't find the end of it. They cannot round that off. But let us see later what we can do with a fraction. As we review our entrance into the pyramid, we will recall that it was on the 19th cornerstone, which answers to the mathematical code of the Holy Quran. And we also found that the second chapter, the very second chapter, Baqarah, the longest chapter in the Holy Quran, contains exactly 286 verses, which represents the deviation and also the correction to get back on track. The Bible, too, in this specific instance, also answers to the mathematical code of 19. We read exactly in Isaiah 19, verses 19 and 20, a reference to the building of this monument, the Great Pyramid, standing in the middle of Egypt and on the border thereof. This hidden wisdom is contained in the use of letters and numbers and words that is a part of the Jewish numerical system called gematria, or gematria, I think it is gematria, where letters, the Hebrew letters, were identified and used as numbers, which as a point of reference the rabbis concealed, which is called the Kabbalah and other Talmudic writings, but they knew the deeper secret meaning of these scriptural passages. And ultimately what happens is that as they added up the letters and the words that comprise the 19th verse of chapter 19 of Isaiah, it comes to 5,449. Now, what is interesting is that is the exact height of the Great Pyramid that takes you to the truncated part, which means that there's something missing. Interesting in the study of our lessons, in the student enrollment, we are given the birth or the birth date of Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. Christianity is given as 551 years. So if you add that 551 years to the 5,449 figure, we get 6,000, which then lets us know that at the end of the 6,000 years that Christ will come, and he himself may represent then, in this analogy, the missing capstone, and also the rejected stone that the builders disallowed until restored in the Messianic age with the coming of the Messiah of Christ, who will establish the kingdom or his kingdom on earth with a people that is considered to be no people at all. This rejected stone becomes the chief cornerstone of the building and the foundation of God's new kingdom, referred to in the scriptures as the 7,000th millennium reign of Christ on earth. Could anything fit so perfectly? If we add together all those series of numbers that I identified as the displacement factor, that is 286.1 pyramid inches, that is counting 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up to 17, the result of those digits comes again, astoundingly, 153. Again, representing the number of fish caught by Jesus in the parable, revealing the number code of our lessons. The number 17 here, with 6 zeros added to it, comes to the figure 17 million, which represents the lost found members of the Nation of Islam in America when we were found by Master W. Farad Muhammad. Every number, every letter, every word, every syllable has a profound connection to the mathematical theology of Islam as we are taught in problem number 13. The Holy Quran reveals, and certainly we have made the word to have many connections for their sake so that they may be mindful. Master Farad Muhammad, God in person, laid the foundation of his new world order on a square number in mathematics, which is 12. When this number is squared, it gives us 144, which refers to the 144,000 elect. We will also see its reference to point number 12 in the Muslim program of wants and beliefs. Our lessons are mathematically coded for each student to enter the mathematical matrix of the supreme wisdom. The keys to the methodology and approach to our study is given by the master himself in letters, numbers, words, and syllables, along with their pronunciation. So when you use this system, what happens is that you're able to look into everything around you, the atom itself, the physical world, the spiritual world, mental planes of consciousness, and you will begin to see that which others do not see. You will hear that which others do not hear, and you will perceive and see that which others are not perceiving and cannot see because they were not given this methodology, which was learned by the Jews and also has determined why they are the rulers of the present world order, how they happen to rule over their brothers of the Caucasian race. In the Supreme Wisdom Lessons, published recently in book form, we are given 13 paragraphs of instruction to study, followed by problem number 13. When these numbers are added together, the result is 26, which is equal to the 26 letters of the English alphabet, which is coded in the methodology of the 13th problem. And we have the 10 numbers. That is, when we recite 10 questions and answers of student enrollment, we have the 10 numbers of the mathematical language, which defines the deepest meaning of Islam. The basis of our work today, brothers and sisters, is to make our brains and our minds work in perfect alignment with the mind and thinking of God. The scientists come among us asking questions, helping us to tune into a higher frequency of thought and state of mental consciousness. As the Honorable Minister Farrakhan has entitled his 18th study guide, Rising Above Emotion into the Thinking of God. We, the Nation of Islam, lose no time. Ask questions and learn all about yourself. What are you doing today for yourself? Your brother from the East wants to know and hear from you at once. We find that written in one of our problems, problem number 31. Okay? I have attempted to demonstrate that the 10th system, the brain, represents the working of the mind of God through the example of the body of wisdom that he brought to us called the Supreme Wisdom, teachings now of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Supreme Wisdom Lessons is like the illuminating book of the divine scriptures of both Holy Quran and Bible. The Great Pyramid of Egypt serves as a testimony in stone of this great truth. As we begin our courses of study in developing a national curriculum for all members of the Nation of Islam, we are all working from the same foundation of truth, hopefully to be approved by God. Now, brothers and sisters, I read to you exactly what I presented to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. In the second part of my presentation, I am going to go further into the formula of pi and how it applies to the dynamics of our lessons and how it applies to the practical everyday life. And as I enter into this study, I want to utilize the vision of Ezekiel, and I will explain that when we get to the diagram. The discovery of pi in our lessons leads us to the entrance of the mathematical matrix of the Supreme Wisdom Lessons and the Theology of Time computer game. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan has stated that whoever draws the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your activity. Over the last several decades, I have attempted to apply the lessons' mathematical code to my everyday life's experiences. I was inspired to look more diligently into its application as a result of the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad directed to his laborers and family members at the dinner table in Chicago just prior to his departure. He also instructed me concerning the importance of the lessons in teaching others in Mexico. During these many years since his departure, I have attempted to find innovative ways to apply this wisdom that he shared with me. My first mathematical breakthrough came in the late 1970s and beginning years of the 1980s. I was introduced to both the mathematical 19-based revelation of the Holy Quran, and intuitively I came to see its relevance to the mathematical complement of 22/7 pi discovered in our lessons. As I previously stated, and I will repeat this, I divided the number 7 into 154, which resulted in 22, which combined together, 22/7, represents the fraction of pi. I applied the discovery of pi to the whole complex of the Muslim program presented by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which I have configured in various diagrams, which includes reading assignments, books and study guide material, all programs for home study, and as a computer game for the entire family. I reviewed the 13 instructions to the laborers concerning the structure, the ideal structure of the ideal mosque, temple, school, educational center, and economic program, and discovered a whole system of reorientation linked to re-education and training, beginning from the grounds of Mosque Miriam, an educational center, to be disseminated throughout our communities, both at home and abroad. I discovered that in the working of these two main mathematical formulas, pi as a fraction, 22/7, and the 19 mathematical code of the Holy Quran, that I was able to synthesize the body of knowledge contained in the Supreme Wisdom Lessons and the Muslim program in a mathematical way. The sign of Jesus' history and his mother are paramount to this study, especially in the area of Jesus' education and training, which took place in Egypt as a sign. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that Jesus studied at Peach Pyramid, to which he also made a reference in the Theology of Time lecture series in 1972 to Al-Azhar University also as a sign. Many years ago, I had a dream in which I was visiting Cairo, Egypt. I was inside an apothecary and a fragrance shop. My eyes were attracted to a small glass beaker containing a container that held a liquid, the color of amber. I asked the shopkeeper the name of the fragrance, and she told me that it was peach. When I awakened, I was puzzled over the meaning of that dream. Within several hours' time, I mentally turned the letters of the word peach around, scrambled them around, and it spelled Cheops. I then realized that Jesus' study at Peach Pyramid was a code for the master's training at the Great Pyramid of Cheops. The key to the mathematical matrix of the Supreme Wisdom Lessons and the Theology of Time computer game that I am developing is based on the mathematical formula of pi. Our assignment of the Supreme Wisdom Lessons is designed to teach a student how to tune in to the mind of God through a series of questions and answers, which was the way that the prophet or the wise man taught Jesus how to tune in, by asking him a question and he would then give the answers. We, brothers and sisters, are actually enrolled in the divinity school of gods, chosen and elected to be made the future rulers of a new world order born from a new world of thought. As we continue to process this information, we will become a light-bearing sun, reflecting Christ consciousness from within. By following this path of enlightenment, with further instructions from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we too will become a light unto the world. Thank you for your patience. Submitted by a fellow student and follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Sister Tanetta Muhammad. Well, that ends, brothers and sisters, exact word per word, with a few commentaries that I made, presented to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. And before I go into the second part of my presentation, which will show you one of the diagrams, I have many other diagrams, but since this is just the introduction, I have only one diagram that I am going to explain how the system works in the course of our re-education and training. I'm going to draw an analogy of my diagram presentation to the mechanics of the great mother wheel, or plane, as we have been taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who refers to the mechanics of the wheel, to Ezekiel's vision of a wheel in the middle of a wheel. The second reason for making this analogy of our Supreme Wisdom Lessons to the Great Mother's Wheel is to draw our attention to the vision-like experience of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, who was taken to the wheel to be in direct communication with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which took place in Mexico in 1985. There are various quotes from the messenger's writings on the mother wheel and Ezekiel that link directly to our studies. First of all, you will note that in our studies, particularly beginning with lesson number 2, which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said symbolizes in those 40 questions and answers the making of a man, the making of a very special man who is being prepared, all right, to be changed into a new people and to become the masters of a new world order that is to take the place of Satan's world. So the Savior is pointed out as being the Son of Man. The Son of Man. They looked for that mystery God for trillions and trillions of years. And they came to the conclusion that there is no mystery God, that he is the Son of Man. And we cannot point or to any other object of worship, a statue, fall down and worship, or any other means. Spirit cannot be God. The Spirit itself has to be contained within a person, okay, who is highly evolved. So, a quote from Message to the Black Man in America, and you'll note Son of Man is mentioned at least 4-5 times in lesson number 2, and also the Son of Man, and not a spook, who measured all the planets and their distances and the speed of sound and the speed of thought, is not done by a spook. They are actual facts done by W.D. Farad, or Master Farad Muhammad. Now this is what he said on page 14 or page 17. He pointed out a dreadful looking plane that is made like a wheel in the sky today. It is a 1/2 mile by a 1/2 mile square. It is a humanly built planet. Listen to that. A humanly built planet. It is up there and can be seen twice a week. And he ends it by saying, it is no secret. Ezekiel saw it a long time ago. Then he continues, the sign of the Son of Man would be seen in the heavens. The tribes of the earth would mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. That is from Matthew 24:30. Now notice, Matthew starts with a sound, and we're going back and implementing why words and letters, etc., are taken apart, and you will begin to see the analogy how it works. The first sound in Matthew is math. So mathematically and mechanically, we have the structure of the wheel, which is exact dimensions that are fulfilling a specific purpose. He goes on, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to tell us that the vision of Ezekiel's wheel in the sky is true if carefully understood. There is a similar wheel in the sky today, which very well answers the description of Ezekiel's vision. And he says, this wheel corresponds in a way with the sphere of spheres called the universe. The great wheel, which many of us see in the sky today, is not so much a wheel as one may think in such terms, but rather a place made like a wheel. The like of this wheel-like plane was never seen before. The similar Ezekiel's wheel is a masterpiece of mechanics. His vision of the wheel included hints on the great wisdom of Almighty God Allah, that really He is the maker of the universe, and reveals just where and how the decisive battle would take place in the sky. Ezekiel saw wheels in the middle of a wheel. This is true. The universe in the universe. These are the words from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It is made up of revolving spheres. There are wheels in the wheel. The present wheel-shaped plane, known as the mother of planes, is 1/2 mile by 1/2 mile. That is 2,640 across and 2,640 square all around. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in the lectures of the theology of time that it's 1 mile straight down through the center. So that means it's like a concave and oval-like, but it is awesome. And he said it was dreadful to look at. So it is the largest mechanical made object in the sky. It is a small human planet. He also stated that a whole new civilization is on that wheel. Now this is very fascinating. When I looked up Ezekiel, as a result of making my diagram, I was very, very stunned to find that the very first chapter of Ezekiel, which describes how he was called by the river Shibar in the land of the Chaldeans, or in ancient Babylon, no? That he saw like this light coming, so dazzling, like a whirlwind, it says, out of the north. And it was enfolding, it said, in light and in fire of the color of amber. And everyone knows that amber is a resin that is hardened and contains the colors of a yellow orange tone. And we recently saw photos that were taken and videoed by a Mr. Diaz in Tepoztlan in Mexico at one of our conventions approximately a year or so ago. And he brought these dazzling photos that gave proof that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan truly had that experience on the wheel in the same place. This photographer, nearly in the same year, he photographed this particular object that had the color of amber. Now, the further description of Ezekiel goes on, and by the time you reach the 16th verse of the first chapter, Ezekiel says what he saw were these 4 living creatures, and they all had the appearance of a man. Now, just pay attention to this. A man operating the wheel. Those that are with him are men. Though they're described with wings, up under their wings are hands. Isn't that something? And they have feet kind of like burning brass, it said. And then it says that above the firmament of this object, it was like the color of a terrible, these are the words from Ezekiel, verse 22, first chapter, a terrible crystal. So I wanted to know, what was this terrible crystal? And it gives a reference later down on the 26th verse, and it indicates that when you looked up above the firmament, which was this terrible crystal, there was a throne. And on the throne was the appearance of a man. That is why Ezekiel's vision is absolutely tantamount to being able to describe the phenomenon of the mother's plane, because Master Farad Muhammad's first and greatest sign when he appeared in 1930 was to point out this miraculous plane, which is the mother's wheel, and the rest of the information that has been shared with us about what is on that wheel. And imagine the Honorable Minister Farrakhan had an opportunity to be taken by a little wheel into the main mother's wheel to have the experience of communicating directly with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, so that there would be no doubt in our minds that this is real, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad lives, and he's on another plane of existence, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Now, the commission was appointed, and look at how interesting this was. I stated that the last 28 years, I have been studying how to present my study and my research, inspired from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words, how I would have an opportunity to present that. And it has been exactly 28 years to this year since the departure of the messenger. And now, on top of it, the first chapter of Ezekiel, which describes this phenomenon, 28 verses of chapter 1. The very next chapter, chapter 2, it says Ezekiel commissioned. It uses the word commissioned. And it has exactly 10 verses. And that, to me, is comparable to what the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, son of man, another son of man, he says, go to the rebellious house of Israel. They are stiff-headed and rebellious. And he said, and don't pay attention to their mean faces and their harsh words. You go and you teach them. Anyway, I am with you. I am there to back you up. Look at that. And then he commissions, it says Ezekiel commissioned, and he commissioned the 9 commissions, and now with the 10th commission, the brain occupies exactly the number of verses that you read when Ezekiel is commissioned in the 2nd chapter. The next most important part, I mentioned earlier that there are 40 questions and answers to lesson number 2. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that that was guiding us to the making of a man, a new man, the Son of Man. And that's where the Son of Man appears. There are exactly 40 chapters to the beginning of the construction, listen to this, restructuring, reconstitution, reorganization of the temple that would be set up in the millennium age. And that then brings the number of chapters of Ezekiel to 48. I am telling you, brothers and sisters, from my own experience, every single day, every morning when I rise up for prayer and study my Quran and study the lessons and study the Bible or points of references that may come to me, that I'm continually receiving new and information that is so powerful that I can hardly write it down, I can hardly retain it in my mind, but I want that same spirit to come to you and be inspired with the same assignment. I'm not studying anything any different from any one of you, any one of us. So I wanted to point that out because I think that that's very, very significant. The next aspect of my presentation has to do with a diagram and how this wheel in a wheel concept came to me. Now I've quoted what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has said. So I'm going to take my pointer, and I also have a marker board here, so that may Allah guide me to present this next portion of my presentation in a way that you will have understanding. We're now going to focus on this diagram. At the top, a wheel within a wheel. So with my previous explanation, you can now connect to Ezekiel, the messenger's words, and the minister's vision. It says the Supreme Wisdom Lessons, diagram 1. This is the way we start. In the center of this wheel of color, representing the 7 colors of the rainbow, and the 7 colors of the rainbow are mentioned as a bow that was seen above the sapphire throne in Ezekiel in 26. And there was also the bow that comes after the rain, so it's like the rainbow. So we know the refraction of light through a prism will give us these 7 colors of the rainbow. Now the center represents the universe. And recall that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated in the book, Message to the Black Man, that the creation of this wheel was made like a universe in a universe, and it's constantly pulling up things into our view. So we have the flag of Islam, which is the universal flag. We have the crescent moon in its first quarter. We have the 5-pointed star against a red sun background. Now, if you look closely at this flag, you will see that the star has 5 points, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that that represents our 5 senses. Now I'm going to take us a little bit deeper into what I think we can understand from this. These 2 points dissect the circle so that we count 5, 6, 7. 7 points in this center of the sun. Now, around this are 7 colors of the rainbow radiating out. Now, before I go on to the explanation of what those 7 colors represent, look down here. 6 sets of lessons equals 154 questions and answers, divided by 7 equals 22/7 formula for pi. Now you know if you multiply 22 by 7, you can come back to the whole figure of 154. So the perfection of the 0, or the perfection of the move into a full circle, is only arrived then if we use a fraction and not if we use a decimal. Okay? So the 53 is incomplete without adding the God himself. So he is like the one in front and guiding. So this supreme wisdom comes like that to us. It is a circle within a circle of the sphere of his wisdom. He initiated himself in the beginning. And how did he do that? And this is where I wish for your attention to see if you understand this. Where did pi originate from? As you know, the universe is the spirals, circles upon circles, the universe within universe, spheres within spheres, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out. God began in the making of himself in darkness, a light of himself. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad pointed out in the Theology of Time that he first had to draw a diameter of himself. Then after he drew the diameter, then he made a sphere or a circle to encompass that which his brains conceived within that circle of knowledge that he himself was creating. Now, he said nobody, nothing can come into existence unless it comes out of that circle or body of wisdom of the God's first creation of himself. So therefore, I use this sphere, this circle, and it will enlarge in the next diagrams, and more material will be added to the colors of the rainbow that you see here. So if pi itself originates with God, then pi is the perfect mathematical equation to prove that our lessons that were designed and given to us by God is the continuation of wisdom, of worlds out of worlds, of a new world of thought into the building of a new kingdom based upon the principles of mathematics, so that mathematics is Islam, Islam is mathematics, it is eternal, it is infinite, it goes on and on and on. And the scientists could not see an end to his wisdom. They all had to fall down, the 24 scientists, because they could not see an end to the great wisdom of Master Farad Muhammad. Now, another example I'm going to give you here is that this color wheel is the main diagram that opens up to the rest that will be shared with you perhaps in another tape. If the 5-pointed star represents our senses, we also can derive our Islamic studies. How is that? We have 5 pillars of Islam. We have the 5 theoretical beliefs and the 5 practices of Islam. We have our 5 daily prayers, to which we add, if you take these 2 points, 2 more prayers, which really brings the number to 7. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when you rise in the night, you should recite another prayer, or even another prayer in the nighttime, added to your 5 daily prayers. That would bring the number to 7. Another very fascinating thing is that we can find the flag of Islam in the Bismillah, the opening Bismillah and the Bismillah statement over 113 surahs. And one would say, how do you do that? Well, I'm going to go to the chalkboard. When we say Bismillah, Bismillah, okay, not too good, but Bismillah equals 7 letters. Okay, then in the next part of the statement, it's Rahman, equals 6 letters. And Rahim equals 6 letters. Okay, that is the opening Bismillah in Al-Fatiha, and it's over all of the surahs, as we know, except Surah 9. What do you see as you look at these numbers? Do you see any relativity to the histories that we are taught about the sun, the moon, and its separation from the Earth? All right. It is this way. 7, 6. All right. 76 trillion, 76T, 76 trillion years ago, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the sun came into its present existence in our solar system. So we have 76 trillion years ago for the sun. And then I'm surrounding 66. Okay, we know what happened 66 trillion years ago. That was the moon explosion. Now we can do something more with these numbers because we have its relevance to the Earth, the planet. And by the way, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad answers the question in lesson number 1, question and answer 9, which 1 and 9 is a 19 again. But if you put that together, he says that the sun, the moon, and the star are planets. That's the original form that they are coming out of planets. And now we can see because the moon was once a part of the Earth. Now, how do we get Earth out of this? Take these two numbers, 6, 6. 6 plus 6 equals 12. The moon dropped or went up 12,000 miles high. If we multiply 6 times 6, we get 36. And 36 was the amount dropped of the Earth when she separated from the moon 36,000 miles. So in the Bismillah, and this is the beauty of the methodology that we were taught, you can take letters, numbers, words, you can combine them in all kinds of ways, and you will get a deep root underlying teaching other than what you're seeing on the surface. So you can go as deep, deep, deep as you can go. Mathematics is the key. It's interesting, I just happened to see this. If 6 and 8 and 3 and 4, 48, okay, that represents something else, but in application to what we've been studying about a wheel and a wheel, we pointed out that Ezekiel makes up 48 chapters, which goes into the make of this wheel that has never been made before, and God then is identified as being seen in the clouds, and that the hearts of people will be, perplexed, and all kinds of disasters will befall the planet when they look up and see the Son of Man coming down from the heavens. Now, going back, I wanted to show you. So we have the flag of Islam, number per number, sun, moon, and the earth, and its declination to 36,000 miles out of its original pocket. Now we will go back. I'll leave that there for a moment. Now let us go back here. Out of the sphere or circle, in the circle, our national flag, the universe, Islamic studies base can come out of this, the Holy Quran's mathematical code of 19. What I did was take the 7 colors of the rainbow and make in each one of these quadrants, entering into the circle sphere here, and you will put in, it's not marked here, 22 sections of the lesson. So that every day, and this is the reading program that I will recommend, it's very easy, 22 and color tab each day. You can choose the colors that you wish to represent, but each day choose a color tab. And in that period of time, every member of the family will read 22 parts of the lessons. You just read it. 22 from student enrollment, and then you'll go over and you'll hit 22 somewhere in the actual facts. And then you go down from actual facts, you will count another 22, and that will take you into lesson number 1. Then the next sequential lesson is lesson number 2, then the 34 problems, and English lesson number C1. When you separate and find the 22, 7 times in the lessons, you will read in 1 week 22 parts of the lesson per day until you just read them through once a week. You can repeat that. Pretty soon, you will have memorized by heart without, too much difficulty. And you just read them. You don't have to stop and just keep reciting it over and over. It all depends on you. But at least minimal requirement is to read 22 parts of the lesson each day. And each day will correspond to a different color. Now, in the 13 instructions, to get familiar with them and read, you would expand your 7 days reading assignment by reading 2 paragraphs of the 13 instructions per day. As you read these 2 on Sunday, or the last day, it will be 1, which is the 13th paragraph. Now I will erase this. I think I have just about completed the explanation here that I wanted to, except I'm going to say that is amazing. There is a book called The Temple in Man. Some of you, may have access to it. But in that book, it tells you, through a scholar, Leibniz, from France, who studied many, many years at the Temple of Luxor. And remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, study the monuments in Egypt. Well, he made a very lengthy study of the Luxor temple and the reliefs, or the way that the pharaohs were etched and carved, into the temple walls. And it was exactly the ancient Egyptians who utilized these 2 principal formulas that I pointed out today, the number 19 and 22/7 as a fraction. And they did what you call quadratures. And in these quadratures, they measured the pharaoh's head all the way down to his feet. And they utilized either or, 19 quadratures or the pi fraction of 22/7. So we'll talk more on that later. But what I wanted to put up on the board now goes back to the beginning of the August 23rd and the presentation made by the chairperson, Dr. Abdul Alim. And what he put on the screen was fascinating. It kept flashing. Whoops, are we going to see this? Okay. Atonement. Okay, atonement, and then commission. And by using this methodology, I kept looking, and I said, oh, wow. I said, atonement has 9 letters, and commission has 10 letters. And of course, adding them together, you have 19. And I said, my goodness, everything is absolutely coded. I mean, we can't get away from it. Whatever we do, there is a coded language that is embedded in the presentation itself. And in the word commission, if you break it up, it says, come to the mission. So we are being asked by God, through his representative, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to come to the mission. What is the mission? It is the resurrection of our mentally dead people. To come to the mission, mission how? Through atonement, which is an A tone, which can be then mathematically and musically scaled. Because beneath all of this, we have diagrams that will show you that underlying the codes is a musical scale of sound. But atonement, to be at one with whom? With God first, and with yourself, and then with those around you. So now, look at what else you can do. This is with our children too. It makes it like games to play, but very interesting. Come, take your word up here, commitment. Interesting. So we want to come to the mission to be committed to the service of Almighty God, Allah, through the working out of self, and then everything else will fall into place. Okay, so there's your 19. So the signature of God is on the commission now. Now the next and final part of my presentation today will go this way. He also put on the board in the very beginning, Dr. Alim, he pointed out that the organization of the committee, okay, for 1776 Constitution and the July 4th Declaration of Independence from 1776. Now this is a very interesting discovery. The Savior came 1930, and he brought with him the code in himself, and he had already prepared a body of knowledge and wisdom to share. If you take the lessons, 1, 5, 4, the code of the lessons, and you add it to 1776, you will get the year, exactly 1930, when Master Farad Muhammad came. So I'm going to leave you shortly with this thought and with these words. If this presentation has had some meaning for you to see the beauty and the wisdom that we were given in the supreme wisdom lessons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and to be back on track again and follow the guidelines and instructions of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, I hope that this has helped to widen your comprehension and understanding of the value of this most beautiful assignment and opportunity that we have to move from the left 286.1 pyramid inches to go right 286.1 pyramid inches, which takes us into all of the beautiful studies of the Holy Quran itself. As I entered into this day, which is August 28th, I opened the Quran for guidance. And I marked the place, and it takes us right back to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan's instructions to us recently on that day, August 23rd, about the importance of prayer. And I opened to Surah 17, Section 9, and it says, truth will prevail. And the focus is on prayer. And the focus is on being truthful. And I would like to close in my presentation today by reading that section, beginning with verse 78. Keep up prayer from the declining of the sun till the darkness of the night, and the recital of the Quran at dawn. Surely the recital of the Quran at dawn is witnessed. And during a part of the night, keep awake by it, beyond what is incumbent on thee. Maybe thy Lord will raise thee to a position of great glory. And to say, my Lord, make me enter a truthful entering, and make me go forth a truthful going forth, and grant me from thy presence an authority to help me. And say the truth has come, and falsehood vanished. Surely falsehood is ever bound to vanish. And we reveal of the Quran that which is a healing and a mercy to the believers, and it adds only to the perdition of the wrongdoers. And when we bestow favors on man, he turns away and behaves proudly. And when evil afflicts him, he is in despair. Say, everyone acts according to his manner, but your Lord best knows who is best guided on the path. I thank you for your attention as I leave you the greetings of peace and paradise and prayers for our success to be accepted by God. Assalamu alaikum.